All right, welcome back to InsideFlix, and it's our time for our weekly box office report. This is where we dive into the numbers of this past weekend's box office. So let's get the ball rolling. Rich, tell us which movies made the top 5 at this past weekend.
Coming in number 1 is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny with $60.3 million. Coming in number 2 is Elemental with $12.1 million. Coming in number 3 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse with $12 million. Coming in number 4 is No Hard Feelings with $7.8 million. And round out the top 5 is Transformers Rise of the Beast with $7.3 million.
So the Harrison Ford Indiana Jones era has come to an end with this release of the final installment of the Indiana Jones film series. Although I guess I suppose there's a possibility that they might, continue with the franchise with new characters. But this definitely feels like a closure for Indy. But it's really, really extremely disappointing to see a franchise like this to debut with such a weak box office opening.
Right.
What is your thoughts?
I've been a huge fan, of course, of this. I'm still calling it a trilogy, and I knew going in that this couldn't be as horrible as the last Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but still, this is a horrible opening for it, and but it is picking up good numbers on Monday and Tuesday, with Monday being 11.8 million, and on Tuesday is 9.9 million. So I'm hoping it's going to continue going till next weekend.
And for me, unfortunately, like, this number was not surprising at all. I think, one of the problems was, that this is a sequel to a movie, that had its last installment, 15 years ago. And while this is a very popular and beloved franchise, I just don't think it has that much appeal to younger audiences. I remember, like, when I was in, I think, middle school or high school when the last Indiana Jones came out. And I remember all the, the movie fans, all the people that I was friends with, everyone went to go see it, especially, with their families. But there were a lot of people in school that didn't see that movie. And I think, going, 15 years later, you're even less people are going to go see it. But the good thing for this movie, and as Richard was pointing out, I do think it's going to have strong legs, because there is an older audience that wants to see this movie, and I just don't think they're rushing out to go see it. Harrison Ford still has a lot of fans; they're just not young.
Essentially, this is what we've been witnessing this summer. Major studio movies have not done well this summer season. This is pretty much a pretty bad summer season. And I think Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is just another example of this kind of growing disconnection between moviegoers and these IP tempo poles. Films based on 80s properties are going a little stale. I think they're losing their appeal. Mm-hmm. And I think the people who do remember these characters or remember these films are no longer going to the movie theaters. They're kind of staying home and they're watching TV. And I'm sure a lot of them are going to be waiting for these type of movies to arrive on streaming. Not just Dial of Destiny, but like the whole slate of summer movies. And that's just part of how this landscape has changed.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this is just kind of going to be the new norm now. I think we are still going to see billion-dollar movies every now and then, but they're not just going to come along every day, and they're going to usually be for something that it has to be very specific. It has to usually be a sequel to something, but it has to be a sequel to something that people actually want. That's a very key thing.
Let's talk about Elemental. This is holding up pretty well at number 2. That is good news. Bad news is that the box office have been pretty rough the last couple of weeks. And so I think the movie will still rank among Pixar's lowest grossing animated film in history. So,
hey man, for a little while it was looking like Elemental was going to not even make as much as Onward or something.
Yeah, because
they opened really bad, and it's been having strong legs, and it's already kind of surpassed Onward. So there's that for it. It's got that going for it. People seem to be liking the movie.
And Elemental has the full month of July to really demonstrate if they could catch up and hold strong. Personally, I still have my doubts, but we'll see.
Yeah, Elemental, it means the biggest thing it has going for it is that it has the name Pixar attached to it. Other than that, it was neck and neck with the number 3 film, which is, of course, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So close that it could have been number 2.
Yeah, they're basically tied.
And I think in the summer movie season where the failures have kind of outnumbered the winners, Across the Spider-Verse has been a standout. It's a genuine highlight of this season.
Mhm.
Where critics and audiences agree for the most part that they both loved this movie. Across the Spider-Verse has crossed over 600 million worldwide. It currently ranks as like the third highest grossing film of the year, behind Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 at number 2, and then Super Mario Brothers, which was the real big winner of this year, at number
Mhm.
1. And the film is in its 5th week, and like you were saying, it reclaimed the top spot last week, and now it kind of falls to 3rd, but by a very thin margin. So
Yeah.
this is doing really, really good. But I don't think Across the Spider-Verse is going to beat Super Mario
No
Brothers'
way.
box office. But I think it's definitely on its way to surpass Guardians.
Yeah, that's the big question. Like, does it have enough gas, enough fuel to pass Guardians? I mean, that is over 200 million more. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if it will, because we got Mission Impossible coming
Right.
out.
Yeah, I think after this next weekend, the weekend following will be like a bowling ball hitting a bunch of a strike, and all these films are going to go everywhere.
No Hard Feelings comes at number 4, which is, I guess, it's okay. I mean, it is an R-rated comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's holding its own.
It's doing well. I mean, it's not losing money, which is good for this box office. Yeah.
I would say that this is going to be one of Netflix's biggest hits of this year.
Oh,
Thanks for its
Yeah.
partnership with Sony Pictures. Once No Hard Feelings hits Netflix, I think it's going to be like one of these cult movies. I think people are going to say, "Hey, what's this?" And they're going to click on it, and they're going to say, "Oh, it's a comedy with Jennifer Lawrence," and they're going to see it. And I think the movie has a good chance to develop a huge cult following once it hits Netflix. Well, let's talk about the final film in the top 5. It's Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Look, it's a nice effort, but unfortunately, I think this franchise has lost its momentum. And I think it had kind of reached its pinnacle some time ago, and maybe it's time to retire the Autobots finally.
I don't know if I don't know if I would agree with that just yet, because I think the thing that's smart about, or I don't know, smart, but like from a financial perspective, with the good thing about Transformers for, these studios is they still have cartoons running, so there's a young audience for it. There's the whole nostalgia factor, and there's also, still the toys that are still, being made and sold and purchased by young children and grown men. So So I don't think it's necessarily, just abandon Transformers. I don't know if that's the right move. They are making an animated Transformers movie that's supposed to, like, I think take place in Cybertron or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's supposed to be a lot of like A-list actors, voicing characters. I think let's wait for that and see how successful that is, because that should be, I'm guessing, a lot cheaper than these live action movies.
Mm-hmm. Should they maybe take a break for a little bit and like build up the Hasbro universe and maybe
do the animated movie, right?
But I mean, maybe possibly do a sequel with multiple Hasbro properties.
Oh, a Transformers sequel that has like G.I. Joe and Mask and all those characters?
Yeah,
absolutely. But I don't know if they should rush to that just yet.
Let's talk about the rest of the top 10. Rich, give us the rest of the films that made the top 10.
Coming in number 6 is Ruby Gilmore, Teenage Kraken. Number 7 is The Little Mermaid. Number 8 is The Flash. Number 9 is Asteroid City. And around the top 10 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yeah, so Ruby Gilman, Teenage Kraken, flopped. I mean, it is a big bomb for DreamWorks. And, I thought for sure it was going to take some audiences from Elemental, but it really didn't.
No, I was actually expecting this movie to come in and even lower.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting it to make maybe $3 million, I think $5 million for this movie is actually great. I don't even know why this movie was even produced.
Well, maybe it should have been like a streaming exclusive.
Yeah, maybe it would have been better for Netflix. Sell it to Netflix. I guarantee you, next week, Ruby Gilman's going to be much lower than Little Mermaid. It's going to have a much bigger drop, and it's just going to disappear.
Talking about disappearing. The Flash. The Flash is coming out at number 8 here, and wow, it's another big drop. It's its third week. It is dropping hard.
Over 60% drop.
Yeah,
and it's just on its way out of theaters. And this is kind of like what I was saying about Transformers. Like, this is a franchise where I think it feels like it's constantly being rebooted. I think people just want dark DC, and when they see a trailer for a movie like The Flash, it feels like they're just like, like a Marvel copycat. and I think there's people don't even acknowledge it. It's like a Ruby Gillman to them.
Yeah, and unlike most of the films, I mean, this had no heartbeat internationally as well, and Warner Bros. Just decided to go ahead and announce it on VOD. It'll be on VOD and on July 18th, which is basically 1 month before after the premiere.
Yeah, they're basically giving up on the domestic release here.
Yeah, and it's a damn shame. The movie's definitely flawed, but I enjoyed the hell out of Flash. But yeah, it is what it is. I really wanted a sequel to it.
Let's look ahead and this upcoming weekend. Rich, tell us what movies are coming out in theaters this week.
Opening up wide this weekend is Insidious: The Red Door. This is the 5th and final installment of the supernatural horror film series, with the notable distinction of being Patrick Wilson's directorial debut. Once again, it revolves around the Lambert family as they confront spooky demons yet again. Also opening up wide is Joyride. This is the new Asian female-led road trip comedy that stars comedian Sherry Cola, Ashley Park, Everything Everywhere All at Once nominee Stephanie Hsu, and comedic newcomer Sabrina Wu. Since its explosive premiere at this year's SXW, the film, produced by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, has been generating significant buzz. Also opening up wide this weekend is Sound of Freedom. This is the new action drama starring Jim Caviezel as a dedicated U.S. agent on a mission to dismantle a network involved in the illicit trade of human trafficking. This is the latest from the religious-based studio company, Angel Studios, who are behind the religious hits The Chosen and His Only Son.
All right, so Insidious: The Red Door is projected to hit around 25 million to 35 million. Now, Insidious: The Last Key, which was the last movie in the franchise, opened around 29.5 million. That was back in 2018. So, yeah, I kind of agree with these numbers. I think it's going to hit that around that number. But the question is it enough to be number one? I think there's a good chance that Indiana Jones might take number one again.
It's going to be very, very tight race between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised Indy comes back at number one, and I wouldn't be surprised if Joyride is number two. Because Insidious: The Red Door, I haven't heard anything positive about the film, and they haven't screened that. They have screened Joyride. But Insidious, it might just be overlooked because I haven't seen advertisement for the film either.
I went to some of the screenings, or one of the screenings, and I saw it, and I think Joyride's a really good movie, but I don't think it's going to open as big as like No Hard Feelings. Mm-hmm. I think Joyride is having a bit of a problem with its marketing, honestly, and I think it'll be a miracle if Joyride can make 10 million.
Well, so Joyride, the box office projection for Joyride is that it's going to make either between 12 million to 17 million. So I could see it kind of opening around that number.
I think the huge shocker will be the faith-based film Sound of Freedom, because I know Angel Studios has been promoting itself, and this is their first big film that they're releasing. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is somewhere in the top of the top five.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that Sound of Freedom maybe even do better than Joyride. I read a story that they already sold 7 million in ticket sales. And religious films, no one's really talking about this, but religious films have done very well this year. It has a really good shot to surprise everyone with this upcoming weekend.
I agree.
Let's look at a limited release. Rich, what's coming out in limited release?
Opening up in limited is Biosphere. This is the new buddy comedy set in a post-apocalyptic near future, starring Mark Duplass and Sterling K. Brown as lifelong best friends who find themselves as the last two men on Earth. Also opening up in limited is Earth Mama. This is the new A24 drama that follows the journey of a pregnant single mother who is determined to reunite her family despite her two children being in foster care. Making her film debut is Oakland rapper Tia Nomore.
Well, let me just say that I saw a poster for Biosphere, and I thought it was for a new TV show.
Let's talk about streaming. Rich, what is coming out in streaming this week?
Streaming this weekend is Wham!, which will be available on Netflix on Wednesday, July 5th. This is the new music documentary that invites viewers on a nostalgic journey through the 1980s as pop stars George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley recount their incredible 4-year trajectory from their humble beginnings as teenage school friends to their meteoric rise as global superstars. Also streaming this weekend is The Outlaws, also on Netflix on Friday, July 7th. This is a new comedy where Adam Devine takes on the role of a dorky bank manager who becomes suspicious that his soon-to-be in-laws, played by Pierce Brosnan and Ellen Barkin, might be infamous bank robbers.
Yeah, Rich, are you excited for the Wham documentary?
I seen a George Michael documentary recently.
Yeah, it was very good.
I thought it was pretty good. And but this is be a lot more focus on Andrew Ridgeley. I hope so. Hopefully it's just as good.
Okay, so that's it for this episode of InsideFlix. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. We'll see how well Joyride and Insidious and maybe even Sound of Freedom does in the box office, and we'll be back to talk about that. We'll also talk about the new movies coming out next week. So thank you, and we got to go. Bye, everyone.